All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. We'd like to welcome Brandt Snedeker to the interview room here at the RBC Canadian Open. Brandt, thanks for joining us for a few minutes.
Yep.
You're off to a great year so far, 4 top 10s among them. Your great come from behind in San Diego, and then obviously last week 36-hole leader at the British Open en route to third place honors. And if I looked at it correctly, you're making your fourth start here with a couple of top 10 finishes. So kind of all that said, just some thoughts on what it's like to be back here in Canada.
It's good. You know, I have some success here in the past. It's obviously a different golf course, but it's a great golf course. You know, we don't get to play too many traditional golf courses like this, and it's going to be really tough. Kind of challenge you, every club in the bag. And I love being up here. You know, my caddy's from Toronto, so this is kind of a semi-home event for him, and it's a fun event for me. I love being in Canada. It's going to be a great week. Golf course is in great shape. And obviously after last week, my game feels like it's pretty close to being where it needs to be to win a golf tournament. So have pretty high expectations for this week.
Okay, well with that, we'll take some questions. And if y'all wouldn't mind using the microphone just so we can pick up the audio, that'd be great.
Hi, Brandt. Brian Koziel from WGR in Buffalo. I was just curious. I know last week's course didn't necessarily play like true links from other Opens, but is there something you actually are mentally going to change from going from that style of golf course back to a North American course itself that you could actually describe to us, I guess?
Yeah, you know, I think there's going to be some different stuff, obviously, especially around the greens and lines off tees and stuff like that. But you know, golf kind of when you're playing good, it kind of goes on any golf course you play. I don't think it really matters where you're playing. Obviously, played pretty well last week and take a lot of positives from that this week. Probably be a little bit more aggressive than I was last week. Last week was kind of a defensive mode every day, it seemed like, just because the course was so penal. This one allows you to be a little bit more aggressive, so I'll probably change my gameplay a little bit in that aspect, but for the most part, you're playing good, doesn't really matter where you're playing.
In here?
Hi, Brandt. Golf Digest Canada. First off, thanks for coming over after a long week in Britain, and I appreciate you supporting the event. My question was going to be similar to the gentleman from Buffalo. The links golf versus this classic Stanley Thompson course with a lot of back-to-front slopes, and the putting is going to be probably the most difficult change, I would think. Would you agree with that?
I would say so, yeah. From what I saw on Monday, the Pro-Am, the greens are can't get them too quick because they're so severely sloped. You know, there's a lot of slope on these greens, and they're not real big targets to hit into. So it's a golf course where you have to control your golf ball. You have to keep the ball below the hole at all times, because if you get the ball pin high or past pin high here, you're not going to be able to make a lot of putts. So it's going to be a kind of a strategy, trying to figure out how you can leave yourself with the most amount of makeable birdie putts. And then, you know, it's very demanding off the tee. There's not a lot of room to hit it out here. You've really got to shape your golf ball both ways, and it's just a great test. You know, we don't see too many of these anymore. It's kind of nice to be back on classic golf course.
Sneds, can you just talk a little bit about maybe a little of the saber rattling you heard last week with the RNA and USGA maybe revoking the rule of anchoring the golf to the putter to your body? There seems to be trending towards some decision, maybe a recall on that rule. Do you want to just talk about that? What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen?
As a guy who putts it pretty good, I of course would love them to recall the rule. I think there's going to be a very touchy subject with a lot of players, because it's been, I don't know if they're going to recall the rule, if they're going to start enforcing the rule. There is a rule in place that says you can't anchor the club, but it just chosen not to enforce it over the last 15, 20 years, whatever it is.
Pernice told me that there is a rule in the book about that, right?
There is a rule in the book about it. It's kind of a gray area. They've chosen not to enforce it, and they've got themselves in a situation now where they're going to have to do something about it. Me, being a guy who putts it pretty good, I would love to see the putter be the shortest club in your bag. I feel like it takes a lot of the nerves out of it. I feel like when you're under pressure and under stress on the 72nd hole and you've got to make a 5-footer, I want to know how your hands feel. I don't want that putter stuck against your body, because it obviously takes nerves out of it. Otherwise, guys wouldn't be doing it. That's me from my point of view. Now, if I had a belly putter in my hand or if I had a long putter, it'd be completely different. But I see why they're in a situation where they're in. This is a tough situation. You're affecting guys' livelihoods and how they make their living. And, you know, guys who have, I'll use Carl Peterson or Tim Clark as an example, who've been on tour their whole life with long putters. Is it really fair to tell them they can't use that now, that they've made their whole career off this one putter, and you're going to sit there and tell them they can't use it anymore? I don't know. It's going to be how they handle the situation. It's not going to be like how they handled Grooves. Grooves is completely different than this. Grooves was in effect. It was not a life-changing, making guys switch from putters and stuff like that. You weren't changing any of the clubs in your bag. You're still playing the same clubs, balls just affected a little differently off the grooves. This is telling guys we're going to completely change the way you've gone about your whole putting for the last 15 years. So I don't know how you do it. I don't know what's fair to those guys. But to be fair to the USGA and the R&A, they got themselves in this situation. So they've got to figure a way out of it.
Follow up to your week last week at Lytham.
Mm-hmm.
A lot wasn't made, and I thought it was an interesting point, and I think maybe it was Curtis or one of the on-air guys did mention it briefly, but the wetness of the bunkers relative to the difference in how they actually play. How much of a factor was that actually during the week about trying not to get in there? Just the condition of the bunkers not being really sand anymore and more actually mud.
Yeah, it was. There's numerous times last week where I made my caddy run up and look and see if there were water in bunkers because it did affect it. If you hit it in a bunker, it was a legit one-shot penalty. You know, you would have to play out sideways or play out backwards, and it made them definitely more penal. And I was lucky the first 2 days and obviously didn't hit in any bunkers, and I made up for it on the weekend by hitting it in a lot. But it was unlike any British Open I've ever been to because the bunkers were the most penal I've ever seen. You saw if you hit it in a bunker, normally at a British Open, you assume you can get it on the green somewhere. Last week, that was not the case at all. I mean, there was just times when you had to go out backwards. You know, Tiger on Sunday, when I was playing with him, was a perfect example of him hitting a greenside bunker, and he couldn't even do anything with it. So they, as penal as I've ever seen, and they really, really made you think your way around that golf course about how to avoid them at all costs.
Yeah, hi, Brent. We heard you speak a little bit more during the Open Championship about the similarities between your game and Tom Watson's. Just wondering, what's your relationship like with Tom? How does he maybe help you, bring those tips to the course?
You know, he's been a great help. I try to play practice with him every year at the majors, either the Masters or British Open, where I see him every year. We text off and on quite a little bit, and he's a good guy to bounce stuff off of. You know, he knows a lot about the game of golf, knows how to play it at a very, very high level. And it's kind of cool to have that relationship with a guy that you grew up idolizing. Played a bunch of practice with the British Open, trying to figure out how to best go about game planning and applying my game to link style golf because I had very little success at it. And he helped me a lot in understanding how you think your way around a golf course, how you play certain shots, how you calculate the wind into your thought process and just your shot selection. And I think that's something you can't learn from playing. You've got to learn it from me. I can't learn from playing so many rounds. He's done it over his whole course career. Really helped me out. I give him a lot of credit for what happened last week. It's definitely a lot of the stuff that happened last week was a direct product of playing practice rounds with him.
I saw you last week in one of the pubs sampling the local fare. Jet lag aside, have you had any opportunity to do that here yet?
Not really. We went out last night for dinner here. Had a nice steak. So that was good to get some beef back in my body after last week, but I slept mightily last night, and it's good to be back on a normal time zone for me at least. So getting back on my same schedule, which is nice.
Brand, a couple questions. You are the come from behind kid. Your victories out on tour, and we've had, for lack of a better term, a collapse in a major championship with Adam.
Yeah.
When you're chasing a guy with a lead, do you feel like that guy is under tremendous pressure to hang on to that lead?
Yes, obviously, yes. You never want to say you're waiting for a guy to make a mistake, but when you're coming from behind, you're not worried about making a mistake. You're worried about making birdies. When you have the lead, you're worried about making a mistake because if you don't make a mistake, you're going to win. When you're coming from behind, you don't worry about that. You're just trying to make as many birdies as you can, and hopefully it's enough. So that's a big reason. I didn't see what happened with Adam coming. I played him on Saturday, and he played beautifully, and I really thought it was going to be a coronation for him on Sunday, to be honest with you. And but that being said, when we get out there on Sunday, and wind was tough. It was a crosswind all day on every hole, which was the hardest wind there by far. And the rough was so thick that you could see that no lead was safe. Didn't matter. Tiger and I were walking down 11, and we were both 4 under par, I think, for the tournament at that point. We both said the same thing. If we get to 7 under par, I think we have a chance to win the golf tournament. And that was knowing full well. Adam was probably at 11 or 10 under at that point. We didn't know how right we were when we said that, but that's kind of what we were thinking. And you never want to see that happen to anybody. It was just kind of one of those things where the pressure does mount, and it does kind of snowball out of effect, and you get the feeling like you can't stop it. I got into it on Saturday where I bogeyed 4 or 5 out of 6 holes, and it's not a fun feeling. It feels terrible, and you're trying to do everything to fight it, and it just keeps getting worse. And I kind of know it's probably what Adam went through on Sunday.
And to follow up on the guy who took advantage of that on Ernie Els, I mean, for him to persevere and come from where he was to where he is now, A, what does that do for golf, in your opinion?
Yeah.
And B, how big a force is he right now in the golf world?
Well, it's funny. Ernie hasn't been talked about in quite a few years. Us as players always know what Ernie is. He's one of the best ball strikers ever. He's a phenomenal talent, and we knew if he ever putted well again, he would contend on a weekly basis. But he's had a great year, and he's kind of flown on the radar. Finished second at the U.S. Open, had a couple other chances, lost in a playoff in New Orleans, had a chance to win at Tampa and didn't quite. I mean, look at his year. He's played fantastic, and he's just kind of flying on the radar. People think, well, it's Ernie. He's not back yet. He's not like he was 10 years ago. He's still relatively young. He's not like he's a 49-year-old. He's still in his low 40s. So, and it's great for golf because Ernie's a great guy to have on leaderboards, playing golf tournaments, great ambassador for the game, and he's passes the litmus test in golf. If you go and watch him play, you understand why he's that good. He just makes everything look so easy and effortless, and it's such a great moment for him. I know because everybody kind of passed him over and thought that he was done winning majors. For him to be able to do this at this age and win a 4, you'd see him maybe winning a couple more. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. See him maybe consider the Masters again now. So it's good to have him back.
Okay, Brandt, as always, we appreciate your time. Best of luck this week.
Thanks a lot, guys.